Hi everyone, my name is Hao Li, and today I'm going to present my training design for Xingzi Mental. There are 5 learning objectives in this design. The participants should be able to know the importance of teamwork in the organization, identify personality types and strengths of each, identify example of positive and negative teamwork, demonstrate how teamwork can affect a critical situation, know the benefit of good communication between departments after taking this training design. The target audience will be administrative employees in all departments except manager, and the prerequisites will be an instructor that have extensive team management skill and experience. The room arrangement will be set up as a U-shaped layout. Pencil, paper, whiteboard pen, tables, desks, and media equipments to show PowerPoint will be the requirement for this design. The training will be start at night. The participant will be start with a survey until 9:20. This survey will ask specific yes or no question about the mission, values, and the goal of the company. The trainee need to figure out whether the cases are good teamwork or not. It will be given for the instructor to see how many participants are familiar with the mission, the values and goals of the company. Moreover, the instructor can assess how many participants take the mission, values, and goal of the company as a long-term goal, and how many participants are satisfied with the company current status and operation. Finally, the instructor can evaluate how many participants are satisfied with the current operation and communication of the company based on the survey result. The instructor will explain what the objectives are for the class, general information such as when break will be, and expectation for participants from 9:20 to 9:40. After instructor finish introduction, there will be an exercise called Draw Something. Participants will be divided into groups. Each group select 2 members to draw on the whiteboard. The helper will show the movie name to members who select to draw. They can only draw other information to remind other team members until one person in the group guesses the movie name. This game can cultivate team trust and show how to effectively communicate information and improve team communication efficiency and trust. After the exercise, the instructor will lead the participants to discuss the importance of teamwork and talk about what make the winning groups won the Draw Something game. And the instructor will guide participants to talk about the importance of teamwork and element of teamwork from 10:20 to 10:50. After the discussion, they will have 10-minute break from 10:50 to 11. The video file dysfunction of a team will be start at 11 until 11:40. The video mainly talk about the absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to result. Let's see a short part of this video.
So what I'm going to talk about today is my book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Now this book applies whether you're in a church or a school or a corporation or a department within that corporation, any kind of a setting where you're working as a team. Okay? And I've been very blessed that companies and sports teams and churches and hospitals have all been using this. So we're going to talk about teams. Okay? And my books are fiction. Most of my books are. But today I'm not going to tell you fiction stories that you'll find in my book. I'm going to tell you real stories. And so we're just going to go through this. I don't have a ton of time, and I have a lot of good material to cover, so we're going to try to go fast. I think it's good. I hope it's good. Okay, so let's talk about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. The first dysfunction of a team is the absence of trust. So I just told you that this stuff is simple. You're hearing this. If you're hearing it for the first time, you're thinking, no duh. Did this guy just say, if you want to build a team, you have to trust each other? Yeah, it's so obvious, isn't it? And I realize that, and it is. But there's something about trust. Most people think about trust in a different way than I'm talking about it. See, most people think of trust as predictive trust, which means you and I have known each other long enough now to where if I say something, you'll be able to predict my behavior. Or if we're in a meeting or in a team and you do something, I know what I can expect from you because we can predict one another's behavior. That's predictive trust. And any group of people that's known each other for a long period of time can have predictive trust, but that's not the kind of trust that makes a team great. The kind of trust that makes a team great is what I call vulnerability-based trust. Vulnerability-based trust. That's the kind of trust that comes about when human beings on a team can and will genuinely say things to one another like, I don't know the answer, I need help, I think I really messed this up, you are much smarter than I am, can you teach me how to be like you, or I'm sorry, what I said yesterday was totally out of line, and I apologize. When human beings can be that emotionally buck naked, if you will, with each other, not pretending to be something they're not, when they can be that vulnerable, it changes the dynamics on a team completely. It is one of the most powerful things you can do on a team because people come and they're open and they're honest and it changes everything. And one of the best ways we can understand this is to think about times we've been on teams that didn't have that. Let me tell you a story about one of those teams. I once worked with a startup company in the San Francisco Bay Area where I live. And it was a startup technology company, but it wasn't your typical garage startup. It was a startup on steroids, if you will. I mean, they had a ton of money in the bank right out of the gate. They had a great product. They had handpicked all these world-class executives from around the country, from SAP and Oracle and PeopleSoft, all these great companies. And they had everything going for them. And everyone said that this company was going to change the world, IPO, make a ton of money, and everybody had high expectations for them. Well, after they had been in business for a while, they called my little firm to do some work with their executive team. And God bless you. And so, oh, look, a bird, you know. And so we went to work to observe, before we started and did a 2-day offsite with this team, we went and observed one of their staff meetings just to kind of get a read on the team. And we learned 2 very interesting things about this team. First of all, they weren't doing very well in the market compared to some of their competitors. And it was very puzzling because they had so much promise. The second thing we noticed was that there was this one member of the team, it happened to be a woman, it doesn't matter, she was in charge of marketing. And whenever she spoke during the meeting, something strange would happen. She'd express her opinion, and everyone else would go silent. And there'd be this uncomfortable pause until they changed the subject and started again. So they would say, what should we do about this competitor? And she'd say, well, this is what we used to do at my old company, so this is what I think, and they'd be like, quiet. Total momentum killer until they changed the subject. Then the people on the team, and I said, why do you do that? What's going on there? And they said, because every time we disagree with her or have a different opinion, she never acknowledges that we might be right. She always insists that she's correct and defends herself. And we finally just decided, why bother? Why bother? So we thought that was interesting. A couple weeks later, we went and did a 2-day off-site meeting with that executive team. So we went off-site, and during the first day of that meeting, we talked about trust and vulnerability, but we also talked about strategy and tactics in the company and what they were doing in their business. And then that night, we went to dinner at an Italian restaurant where we had some wine with dinner, which of course is the great elixir of truth for most executive teams. Many of you found that out last night, probably. And so, after dinner, this woman had a few too many glasses of wine, and she stood up, and I couldn't write this, I promise. She stood up, raised her glass, and said, she had a few too many glasses, said, okay, we've been talking about trust today, and I just wanted to let you know I've been married for 10 years to my husband now, and I barely learned to trust him this year, and so I'm probably not going to be trusting you guys anytime soon, if ever. Cheers. And we were like, cheers, all right. So the CEO and she and I went outside and talked about this, and we said, okay, here's the problem that this woman has. She has a fundamental trust issue. And it probably dates back to her childhood. I mean, it seemed pretty serious. And as much as we wanted to go get, a local priest or minister and Dr. Phil, I don't know if you know who Dr. Phil is, and this woman's mama in for counseling, we realized we couldn't afford to do that. We had to make this team work, but we also didn't want to just fire her. We said, we got to work with her and get her to open up to the team. So after a number of months, I worked with her and the CEO worked with her, and it became very clear she was not going to change. Her trust issues were that deep. She couldn't be vulnerable. So the CEO finally managed her off the team and out of the company. And do you know the very next meeting that we had without her there? The dynamics had changed so much that you would have thought they had swapped out every member of that executive team for a new one. Because if just one member of a team, and that's the moral of this story, if just one member of a team cannot be vulnerable, it's going to spread like a disease to the entire team. One member. Now, everybody's going to come at that differently. Oh, you're right? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay. If one member of a team cannot be vulnerable, it's going to spread like a disease to the entire team. So how do we get our teammates to be vulnerable? And some people are going to come at it in different ways, different personalities, different histories, but we got to know that everybody's willing to be vulnerable and acknowledge their weaknesses. So how do we do that? Well, the only way to do it is if the leader goes first. If the leader is the first one to be vulnerable. Because see, if the leader can't be vulnerable, then nobody else is. Nobody else will be. So let me tell you a story about that. And for those that were here yesterday, this is the story I told you. I wasn't planning on telling it yesterday, but I have to retell it. So I once worked with a CEO who's a famous guy. You've seen his picture on many national, international magazines. He's very famous. I worked with him when he was at a previous company, and to be quite frank, he was not a great leader. But he was brilliant and intimidating and famous. And so nobody on his team in this company ever disagreed with him. And the head of human resources, God bless her, went to this guy and said, listen, nobody ever tells you when they disagree. You're not benefiting from the opinions of the people on the team. You have to do something. And they agreed to do 360 feedback, to get feedback from the team, which is sometimes a good idea, sometimes not. Well, they asked my little firm to administer this 360 feedback tool to get feedback from his team. So we did, and we collected all the information from his team members. And then we gave him the results, and he proceeded to share those results with no one. And so finally the head of to go over the results with your team. They're curious as to what they learned from what you learned. And he said, okay, I'll do it at the next staff meeting. And then he reluctantly, begrudgingly allowed me as an outsider who administered the tool to observe this meeting. And so I sat off to the side on a little chair that had wheels on the bottom of it, which will become relevant here in just a second. And he stood up and he said, okay, it says here I'm not a very good listener. Huh. What do you guys think?
When the video is over, the participant will have a discussion of 5 dysfunction of a team video from 11:40 to 12:20. The instructor guide participant to summarize the 5 dysfunction and understand the meaning of the 5 dysfunctions. The participant need to identify personality types, strength and weakness in the discussion. The instructor encouraged participants to raise some shortcoming about the business or personal in order to solve the problem of absence of chess. And the instructor summarized the importance of commitment in the video, allowing participants to present behaviors or cases that lack of commitment in the past. The instructor explained the importance of responsibility and defined what is success with participant. After this, the instructor will present a 10-minute training wrap-up, talk about the expectation, and briefly summarize what has been presented about teamwork and communication in this training. And open the discussion, Q&A section, and course evaluation will start at 12. And the training will be end at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is my presentation. Thank you.